Good day, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Michael and Patty Show. I'm obviously Michael.
And I'm Patty.
And today we're coming to you live, recorded from the Charlottetown waterfront, looking at the almost frozen water at the Charlottetown Yacht Club. Winter has certainly set in, and this episode should be published just prior to the new year.
Oh, exciting. And yeah, there's just a layer of ice that is covering the water here in Charlottetown.
-3, so it's salt water, so I don't know what salt water needs to freeze. Regardless, let's get into it. I have found that Patty and I have been driving around looking at all the open house signs, the new price signs, which we know it means it was overpriced to begin with, and basically the open houses mean the same thing, and the agents are using those as a pacifier because you do see houses in town and all across the island where, it's worth $550 and they're still trying to get COVID $650 prices, and that's not going to happen. And as Warren Buffett says, the real estate market is very fairly priced. Would you agree?
Yes, I would agree.
So the stats came out. This is for November 2025, and it basically signifies what we've seen driving around for the last few months. Home sales are down 11.2%. House numbered 150 units in November 2025. Compared to 169 sold in 2024. As we know from past episodes, it doesn't take much to move the needle in PEI, but home sales are down over 11% compared to last year. Market is balanced, so all you sellers that think you have the upper hand and all kinds of negotiating ability and leverage against the buyers, that hasn't been the case for a while, and it says here, as of November 2025, the market was well-balanced. I don't think they've ever used the word well.
Yeah. Well, and that's, so to explain well-balanced or a balanced market, that's at the average price point of property values, which I know you're going to share next. The days on market increase or the absorption rates will end up coming into play. And the higher the price point that you find yourself in on Prince Edward Island, the needle actually leans towards a buyer's market. And that's something people need to be aware of.
Don't use the needle. That's my term.
Okay.
Basically means the supply and the demand has entered an equilibrium.
Okay.
The needle's in the middle.
Okay. So we're back to the needle.
New listings are down. This I found interesting. That you would think when home sales are down, listings would go up. But again, it's December. So the typical mindset right now on the island anyway is focus on Christmas, 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 Christmas. That's all you'll ever hear when you call people asking them if they're ready to put their house on the market. So new listings are down 7.5%, 211 new listings added in November compared to 228 last year. So it's not a big difference. But they are down, and of course the other challenge is, if you do sell your house, where you're going to move to. I look at markets all over the States and Canada, and it doesn't seem to matter where you go. Houses are expensive. I was looking at Tagish Lake, Yukon, the other day. Do you know where that is?
That's in the Yukon.
Just outside Whitehorse, and beautiful spot, and houses are still $650.
Wow.
Asking price. Which I would have figured they'd be worth nothing based on the proximity to a large center, but hey, what do I know? Benchmark price and PEI. So what this is sort of what Patty talked about earlier. Benchmark prices basically means a typical house in PEI that people would buy and sell. So down 1.1%. The benchmark price as of November is $369,900. From $374,100. So everybody that says, real estate always goes up, it doesn't matter what you buy, it's going to go up. Yeah, it's going to go up. In many cases it does, but again, it's supply and demand. And a lot of people that are living in homes aren't selling them because they can't find something else that's affordable.
Yeah, and it also depends as well, the timing of your move. Because if you have to move out of necessity, you don't have the opportunity, if you will, to play with the market and say, well, I'm not going to make a move until the market feels a little stronger. So I'm going to wait this out. if you have to make a move, you may find yourself in one of these statistics that we just shared, that the market might be a little lower at this time of year or a little lower this particular month or two. So that's something else to take into consideration. Something else that you had mentioned, Michael, that I just wanted to make sure people are aware of is when you said because it's Christmas or the holiday season, no one's interested in selling their property, because the misconception is no one is moving at this time of the year, so wait until the spring. We've mentioned this many times on previous episodes, but I will just say there are people all 12 months of the year, regardless of the season, that are moving. In fact, my daughter just bought a property. She's going to be closing. By the time this is released, she will hopefully have closed. It is inside her new home, but she's bought in the end of November, closing in December. So people move all 12 months of the year. When somebody's ready, somebody's ready. And if the right product presents itself on the market, you might have a buyer that's just been sitting and waiting for you to make your big appearance.
And the movers and the shakers and the motivated buyers, a lot of times that have lots of money to spend on PEI real estate, these are the people that are out walking for miles down ice roads and snowmobiling and climbing through ditches to see properties in January. So now is the time to put your house on the market. Typically and statistically, from our past experience and research, it's showing that you'll end up with more money. It may take longer to sell, but the one thing you don't have is a pile of competition, which will enter the market as soon as the grass turns green, because inevitably every year, as soon as the grass turns green, as soon as everyone has their landscaping done, we get 25 phone calls of people that want to list their property within 48 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've shown a property where I had to arrange for a snowmobile or
I've done tons. Have you ever helicoptered to a property?
No, Michael, you've won that challenge here. But you're absolutely right. These particular buyers were very motivated, wanted to see it, and your agent will do their best to make arrangements. And again, I was able to get a couple snowmobilers to meet us out at the property and take us back to the property. Of course, the seller was good with this, and we made sure everything was locked up and secured. But there are buyer clients looking all 12 months of the year is the point.
And if they're looking to snowmobile to a property, they're probably pretty motivated and they're looking to buy something now. So all these stats have been posted to the Facebook group. If you haven't checked it out, it is a companion to the podcast. Just search for The Michael and Patty Show on Facebook or Moving to Prince Edward Island, Michael and Patty Podcast. It should come up. Don't confuse it with other podcast or Facebook groups. And it is a private group, so there's a few simple questions, and then the gates opened and have fun frolicking around the Facebook group.
Yep, because it's...
Do we allow frolicking?
I don't know, but that's another so interesting word you're using this morning. Just know there's lots of great content and information to educate yourself with, from a Toolbox Tuesday, which is moving to Prince Edward Island. There's a Toolbox Tuesday on all free link sites that would be available to you, whether you're a buyer or a seller and you just want to do your due diligence or research. Just know that the ones that we share, it's not only available or accessible to realtors. So we share everything, which is the whole premise of this podcast.
The other thing that happened when I was preparing the itinerary or agenda for this particular podcast is up through my email came the stats of agents leaving or transferred. You get the same thing Saturday morning at, 6 or 8 o'clock? So one thing I find interesting is we went from about 200 members to over 500, and the hotter the market was during COVID, the more classes they were running, the more agents we had. Now what we're starting to see is an increase in those agents dropping out. So it's inverse to the market. The market's or not inverse, I guess it would be the same as the market. Market's going down, agents are leaving, and we don't have people filling courses up because the market is returning back to normalcy. Thank goodness.
Yeah, and normalcy for Atlantic Canada, which we've not, prior to 2016, our market was pretty suppressed here for a good
100 years.
Yeah. Yes, it definitely was. But Now things are normalizing more so. And I feel probably agents are feeling that. They thought this was a license to print money. They felt that all their family and friends were going to use them and they were going to buy 5 houses a year so that they could have a nice living and income. And that's not how it plays out.
Next topic, we got an email from Doug. Thank you very much for listening to the podcast and actually emailing me directly. And what Doug's question was, how much does it cost me to get off this island? Via the bridge is what he said. I don't know if he knows he can get off the island via ferry as well, but you have those fees here. And I was unaware of the fact because I never leave the island because I'm an islander and you never leave. Why leave paradise? The ferry or the bridge prices actually dropped by more than 50%, which is cool.
Yeah. So what happened was the federal government made the decision there was an initiative to make traveling to the Maritimes, or more particularly Prince Edward Island, more cost affordable, just to increase tourism and that. So what they did was they discounted the fees by pretty much 50%. So when you're traveling to the island originally, so many of you who have already maybe traveled to Prince Edward Island would be familiar with paying $50. It was $46, and then it ended up over $50 and you don't pay to come to Prince Edward Island, just to be clear. You only pay to leave Prince Edward Island, which makes it a pretty nice place to raise your family because your children are not leaving the bridge. They're not able to leave the island unless they have had in the past $50 to get off the island.
The nice thing is you can watch them on the bridge camera. If you Google Confederation Bridge camera, which I do sometimes.
Yes.
Because I'm extremely busy during the day, I can just watch people going over the bridge for endless hours.
You drive over the bridge, but yes, and it also allows you, the bridge camera, to see what the weather conditions are for traveling, because sometimes we do have high wind warnings, so high-sided vehicles would be prohibited, but there's lots of great sites and tools for that. So the bridge fees to leave Prince Edward Island have been reduced by half. So vehicles are $20. I actually just left the island 2 weeks ago. I went over to Halifax to visit my daughter.
They're reduced by more than 50%. Because they used to be 54 or 55.
That was
now we're down
peak.
to 20.
Yes.
And that's for a normal 2-axle vehicle, not tractor trailers and that sort of stuff.
Correct. Yeah. And it doesn't matter how many people are in your vehicle, just so you know, as long as everyone's
Well, when
legal.
you leave the island, you know as well as I do, you have to tell everybody that lives within 5 miles of you that you're going to Moncton shopping, and then they're going to join you.
Well, it's not that they're going to join you.
You can't just go. You have to make it an event.
They're going to give you a list of items. Are you going to Costco? Because as of today, we still do not have a Costco on Prince Edward Island.
Although it's planned.
It is apparently planned and forecasted for somewhere in the Cornwall area. However, it has not happened. So when you do leave and you let your family and friends know, they will usually try hitting you up with grabbing a few items from Costco to save them the trek. So the bridge is one travel means to get off Prince Edward Island. And then the other one, and the fees changed, just for clarification, they changed on August 1st, 2025. So if you're wondering, when did these fees change, which Michael was very surprised because he doesn't get off the island very much, apparently, but they changed on August 1st. So with regards to the fees for the ferry fees have dropped 50%. So they used to be $23 for an adult. Now it's $11.50 for an adult. Seniors are $10, and a senior is 60 plus.
So this is per person, not per vehicle.
Per person.
So is this with a vehicle?
Yes, this is with a vehicle.
What about if you're just traveling by foot?
You can travel by foot, and this is what your fees would be. So you do still have to pay. So they've got vehicle, you've got low $43. But if you have a full vehicle, actually, I think just with vehicles, Michael, they just charge you by the vehicle. If you're looking to plan just a trip where you're walking on and you've got somebody on the other side, which does happen quite often, these are the fees for that. So $11.50 for an adult, $10 for a senior and students, $8 for youths, and then children 5 and under
So
are
you're
free.
$10 then.
I'm not $10. I'm still $11.50, and actually I can't believe I'm happy to still be $11.50. But yeah, so those are the fees that you can expect. And all these numbers are available on the Northumberland Ferries website.
As well as the schedule. Just don't show up expecting the ferry to leave in 5 minutes. You do, especially during tourist season, because you want to know when it's leaving, and you probably want to pre-book your tickets. And they do have a sort of a restaurant, bar, whatever there as well.
Yeah, they have like a little restaurant. I don't know about a bar setting, but I've been there quite a
Meant
few.
like a food bar, not
Oh, yes.
guzzling back jugs of beer.
And they have that on the ferry as well as at the ports. Now, you should show up approximately no later than 30 minutes before the ferry, especially during busy season. You'll probably be fine and drive right on. But at peak season, you're going to want to be there minimum 30 to about an hour prior to the ferry and departing. And it used to be a misconception that if you show up and you didn't pay, you go into a certain line and all the ones that pay get on first, and all the ones that don't, that hadn't paid, they're the last ones to get on if there's room. That doesn't apply. Everyone that gets on the ferry has to pay. So there's no freebies. So you might as well just pre-book your tickets, have your ferry pass, and enjoy the ride.
And if you do have the time, it is great fun. I would prefer to take the ferry any day of the year in summer if you're not in a big panic to get across the bridge.
Yeah.
Moving along, what are your thoughts on these emails we receive all the time with these top secret lists with all these people that want to sell but don't want it advertised, don't want it in MLS, but if you happen to find a buyer, we're happy to sell. They call these back pocket listings, and they're basically back pocket listings. What would you refer to them as?
I don't know, something that hangs out with lint because nobody sees it. It's at the very bottom of your pocket.
And what are your thoughts on these emails that we get soliciting these off-market listings if you happen to have a buyer sort of scenario?
So just to make it clear for solicitation, if you are a person listening to this considering, ooh, that sounds like a kind of an interesting option for me, there is no solicitation allowed for a back pocket or an exclusive listing other than one-on-one communication. So the brokerage that you decided to enlist your property with as a back pocket.
Well, they're not enlisting. They're just mentioning to one or 50 different agents that if you happen to have a buyer, there's no contractual obligation. It's not an exclusive listing per se.
Well, they shouldn't be offering it to another agent to sell without a contractual agreement.
That's what they do.
Yeah, well, that is the wrong thing to do.
That's where this is going.
I understand where you're going, but you should be signing, if this is a plan for you, which is a really bad plan, an exclusive listing with an agent. That agent can only do one-on-one marketing. So the particular brokerage...
That's exclusive listings again. All I'm talking about is a guy that says, hey, Patty, listen, if you find anyone that wants to buy a house, we'll consider selling. That's it. End of conversation. And that's why this particular topic is called These Sort of Offers Are Dumb. And basically, I know a lot of purchasers think this is some sort of hidden pool or well of secret listings and you're going to get a deal. I look at these all the time, and there's one thing that's consistent with all of them. They're all grossly overpriced and unsellable, and chances are they've been on the market one or more times and haven't sold because of that. So the point to this subject is if you do happen to look at one of these so-called back pocket, not really a listing. I guess that's where the confusion started with you.
No, there's no confusion. I just wanted to make sure the listeners, you seem to be more confused than I am. All I'm saying is there's an exclusive listing, one-on-one marketing, and that is where you do sign a contract. And then on a lower scaled level, you have a pocket listing, because the agents are going to have conversations, Michael, and then it's going to confuse the sellers out there or our listeners. Well, what is the difference? So I just wanted to make it clear. Exclusive listings, yes, you sign a contract. It is a secret listing. No one knows other than your one particular agent. And then there's the back pocket listing where it's just like you said, it's a quick conversation you have with somebody. You think this agent gets all excited because I've got I've got a back pocket listing. I'll see if I can get it sold for you. But please know that this particular seller may or may not be out there saying the exact same message to 5 other realtors, and whoever brings them the buyer is going to win the golden prize at the end of the day, is what the understanding or the excitement for an agent. I don't do back pocket listings.
And we've also had situations where vendors have been on the market and the house didn't sell because it was grossly overpriced. I'm thinking of a Pacific listing in the New Glasgow area. And then they go to a for sale by owner service because realtors don't know anything and they couldn't sell their $600,000 house for $1.7 million. And then their genius idea is they'll email every agent in the entire province saying, if you bring along a buyer, we'll pay you X percentage of the sale price. All this stuff is just silly. Just hire an agent that knows how to market property, put it on at market value, and it will sell based on the absorption rates.
Yeah, if you're serious about selling, then sell your property. I just find it to be a game. And you had mentioned at the beginning of the episode, Michael, where, we have over 500 realtors. Well, on average, each realtor has approximately 5 to 7 buyers at whatever stage they are, but 5 to 7 buyers. So to assume that the back pocket agent that you have selected to keep your listing secret because you don't want the sign up, you don't want the neighbors to know, you don't want pictures yet, you don't want everyone to be aware that you're even considering selling. And I understand, I get it. However, you're doing yourself a disservice. And in my opinion, if the agents are not properly educating sellers as to how this is just not a really good idea at all, you got 5 to 7 buyers per agent out there. The value is listing the property, not expecting one agent to, in essence, double end, because it could end up costing you money that you are not aware you're losing out on. Put it on the market, get the vast majority. See if you can create. I mean, we are in a balanced market, but you never know. Sometimes these properties, because somebody's been waiting for a fresh product to present itself on realtor.ca, you may end up generating a multiple offer.
And if you are buying or consider buying a property that's off market, what can we do, Patty?
You do a comparative market analysis.
Or an appraisal.
Correct.
Or multiple appraisals.
Yeah. Get an appraisal done so that you feel confident in the price if you're not. So the only conflict in having a CMA done with an agent is sometimes agents tell clients what they want to hear instead of what the data actually says.
So look at the data and see what they're comparing it with, including the pictures and all the info.
100%, because then you should be able to get fair representation of what you should expect. And it doesn't mean that you have to listen. If you don't like the number the agent is giving you, first of all, don't price shop on whatever agent tells you what you want to hear. Look for an agent that's actually going to do the job and has the reach and has the marketing capabilities behind them, is going to be perhaps full-time would be desirable. So as leads and inquiries on your home come in, they're available to respond. So those are the things, and that's the reason why you should be listed if you are serious about selling with a realtor.
And we always hire an expert, somebody with 10,000 hours of experience, which works out to 5 full-time years and 1,000 transactions.
And that, at the end of the day, is what's going to put more money in your pocket in less time with less hassle.
Renting an apartment before moving to PEI, is this a good idea or a really good idea?
It can be a good idea so that you can get the layout of the land and make sure that you understand the subdivisions that you're perhaps looking at or buying into. Gives you an opportunity not to purchase in a panic state. I have to get something. You have to be mindful, though, in signing, because a lot of these rentals want a year lease. That's a year's worth of equity that you are giving to another property owner. But it can be very beneficial if you can do a month-to-month agreement. And there's many out there. You just have to find them.
But prices went down, so I'm not giving them any additional equity. I'm actually saving myself money.
In what way, Michael?
Our stats said, where's our stats? Our stats just told us home sales down, prices down. I would have saved 1.1% this month by waiting and renting an apartment.
Absolutely. As long as they can just do it month by month. I'm just saying giving a year's worth of rent to another property owner.
You're going
and
to
not
save it at the purchase because you're going to find that deal.
Awesome.
That's what I did when I moved here. I rented, saved a ton of money, loaded the back of the truck up with cash.
Okay, good stuff.
I just sold a commercial property, and unbeknownst to everybody, although we did completely disclose this once it was found out, it was sort of a compilation of a bunch of commercial properties that at some point, someone didn't bother to figure out that one of these commercial buildings didn't have access to it in the form of a driveway. There is a physical driveway there, but there's no legal right for them to use the driveway to get to the property.
That could be problematic.
Yes, it is. So now you have to drive over your front lawn from the road to get to your building. So, bottom line, to make this quick, always nice to have a survey, plot plan, and read the deed. And if you don't understand the deed, have your lawyer or surveyor interpret it to make sure you have access if it's something that may not come off of a main road, or maybe it comes off a laneway. You probably want to check it regardless. Just make sure you do have driveway access.
Yeah, and with regards to the deed, so the Schedule A and if there is Schedule B covenants or anything like that, most of them from the late 1990s, early 2000s are available online. So if you're a buyer and you're working with a realtor and they say, sorry, I can't access it, that's just because they can't access it online from the convenience of their desk and computer. They are still accessible. You just have to go down to the registry's office, and they are so helpful. They'll dig in the archives and they'll pull it up. So you should be very much informed and educated as to what does the deed say, what are, the land, the story of the land here, which again, that's a whole other episode that we covered because sometimes landmarks that they reference don't still exist. The point of this is you should have these documents so you understand fully and completely what you're purchasing. And if you're the buyer, you don't have to wait for a realtor to decide to go down. You are allowed to go down because it is public information.
Wouldn't it be beneficial for a potential buyer, as long as they're going down to access PEI, or whatever access PEI that contains the deed for that particular property, because there's multiple locations, to have a title search done to make sure that that right-of-way just didn't disappear because the deed was recreated at a conveyance and they forgot to include that right-of-way. And you could just sort of, how about this idea? Since usually the vault is usually surrounded with title search people doing work for the lawyers, let's just say I dropped a $100 bill on the floor, and I said to the title search person, is that your $100 bill on the floor? Would you mind just doing a quick title search for me on this property?
Yeah, all I would say is request, you can go down to the registry's office, access PEI, you can request to look at the deed, at least the last signed deed. I did have a client a few years back who decided they wanted to do title search and everything, Michael, on a property that they were very serious. They were ready to write the sale agreement only to have the property, which is a property that you would never expect or suspect to go under multiple offers, but they found themselves in multiple offers. They had legal fees as a result of their title search that they had paid a lawyer to do.
That's why I said the $100 bill method might be more affordable.
Okay, well, I'm not going to promote your $100 drop the bill technique. However, it is accessible, and you can, if you don't have the time to do that, or you're not on the island and your agent is saying, I don't have time, or it's not accessible and you don't understand what that means, it is accessible. Perhaps put in a sale agreement so you don't miss out on it, but make it subject to solicitor's approval and get in touch with your lawyer as soon as you have a contract agreement and ask that question, because they'll be able to access the documentation, the information, and answer any questions or concerns or find maybe some of these little issues that might arise.
Would you pick your lawyer based on the time that it takes them to do the title search? Because I do know that some lawyers' offices will make it seem like this huge undertaking that could take weeks to accomplish, where other lawyers' offices can get it done in 24 hours.
I think that's a very important point.
My point.
It is your point. So the needle is in your favor right now. I would say that is a really good question as to how do you pick your lawyer? You may already have one, but the availability to make sure that everything is taken care of in a timely manner. So with regards to the solicitor's approval of your contract, if there are any issues with land that you or access that you just feel a little unsure or uncomfortable with, typically a week is good. You can ask your lawyer a week or 2 weeks. We usually align the solicitor's approval with the rest of the conditions. Please do not write your solicitor's approval all the way at closing date. And if you're a seller, do not accept this as a term or condition within the contract, because that buyer has all the way to closing to change their mind and get out of the contract. So it should be in alignment with whatever other conditions they have. Keeping it within a week or 2 weeks time period should be ample time. And if the lawyer is not able to meet that deadline, then maybe you need to find another lawyer that's not so busy, because they could just be very busy or have other things going on.
Could they be cranking up the bill just to make it seem it's like it's a bigger job than it actually is?
Possibly.
No? Yeah.
Possibly.
Let's get back to commercial real estate, shall we?
Sounds good.
Share sales. I received an email from a client that's on one of my automated, send me all the commercial listings as they come up mailing list. And he noticed that there was a lot of listings that advertised being sold as a share sale. Patty, what would your description be of that?
Of a share sale. So basically what they're doing is they're selling a share within a corporation of whatever the business, commercial business or entity it is that's being sold off.
They're typically selling all the shares.
Yes, all the shares. But okay, fair enough.
So basically what you're going to see on MLS is you're going to see commercial properties advertised as an asset sale or a share sale, or what they may do in some cases is, and I've done this, is they'll say, well, as an asset sale, it's $1 million. If you buy it as a share sale, it will be $900,000. So basically what a share sale is in Canadian real estate is you're buying typically all of the shares to the company. So you're buying a company. The company may and probably does own the real estate, which sounds like a great idea in theory. And the reason sellers love share sales is because there can be massive tax advantages. And it's a cleaner exit. There's a whole bunch of other reasons that share sales are advantageous, particularly in PEI. We're not going to get into all those in an effort to keep things short and sweet. Avoiding property transfer taxes is another one, again, depending on the province. So there's a number of things there. However, you are sort of entering a dangerous situation in that you are buying a company. So with that company, and I've always warned people about this, and it just seems to go in one ear and out the other, you may actually be signing up for a bunch of unknown liabilities. For instance, I had one property, a commercial property that I sold, and within that corporation actually serviced military helicopters. Do you think there'd be any liability in that?
I would say there's a high probability.
Right. So if you are buying a company or a corporation and you're buying all the shares, or it's a share sale, you definitely want to have to consult your accountant or accountants and your lawyers, which can get very expensive to do the job right. I've never seen anyone do this job right. Most of them just sign up all willy-nilly. What about you? How many share sales have you done?
Just one. That was an actual share sale.
So did they actually investigate the financials and the liability and have the lawyers look at how the corporation was set up? And
They did, and they did make the buyer very well informed as to you're buying not just only what you see documented, but perhaps a situation from the past that could resurface and become problematic. If there was a bad exchange a year or 2 years ago and that's not something that has presented itself, you have to, the legacy of that company is what you're buying into as well.
So could I have the current shareholder or shareholders of the corporation sign off on a removal of any future indemnities against the new shareholders?
It doesn't work that
It's a
way.
lawyer question, isn't it?
Yeah,
That was a trick question and you fell for it.
I did fall for it. Okay.
Why buyers often run from share sales, potential lawsuits, debt, environmental issues. That's a good one there. Doing your phase 2 environmental, you're buying a campground. Oh, this looks so pretty. Look, all the grass is green. The grass is green because it's a toxic waste dump and you didn't do an environmental study. CRA problems, employment issues, contract disputes, forgotten, in quotes, I like this. GST, we actually have HST here, filings. You name it, you own it, you're buying the company, and I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think you can sign something that basically says you're not responsible for anything prior there to the transference or the purchase of those shares.
Which is why most people opt for starting up a new corporation.
You'd buy it as an asset sale.
Correct.
If you're going to buy the campground that's within a corporation, just buy the campground, remove the corporation, unless, why would you want to buy a corporation?
For tax purposes?
There could be some advantages in that corporation. Let me just look here in my notes. It doesn't even cover this in the notes, but let's just say the corporation had a bunch of write-downers or all kinds of different advantages within that corporation. Then it may be an asset to buy that share sale.
Absolutely.
Anything else before we move on?
And it's possible as savings on land transfer taxes, huge tax savings, simpler exit, take the money and walk away, and no need to individually transfer assets, contracts, leases, etc.
So you did find it.
Yes, I did. And the other thing is just be aware when you're doing a share sale, which is I've had a few interested in doing this, but the complexity, because there are employees and severance pays and all of that you become responsible for. So it's a huge undertaking, and it's not something that a realtor should be involved in other than to do a letter of intent, and the lawyers then go through the process, do the due diligence and research, and accountants to make sure that if you're a buyer, you're protected and you're making a well-informed decision.
How do we get into letter of intents?
Well, just the whole idea of, because there's realtors out there that say they do commercial sales and that's not something that we're typically...
That's only because that's what they had printed on their business card.
Okay. Sounds good.
They may not have any experience at all in commercial. There's not really any commercial real estate agents in PEI per se that I'm aware of. There was one at one point, but we just do not have the properties worth tens or hundreds of $1 million conveying every week.
Yeah, and there's a few that think and say that they're commercial realtors. I know, and I'm not saying this to toot your horn or anything, Michael, but I know you've done very complex commercial, more so as a challenge. I mean, you still had your clients protected by the accountants and lawyers, but writing out and preparing these contractual agreements, it's just outside of our wheelhouse of skills, and we don't have contracts that are equipped at our disposal to do that.
But that gets back to my first point. Number one, don't believe an agent just because they say they're a commercial agent. Again, do they have 10,000 hours in commercial real estate in PEI? Do they have 1,000 plus transactions in commercial real estate in PEI? Chances are they don't. So what a letter of intent is it gets around, and I wouldn't want to write most commercial contracts because of liability. So what you do in commercial real estate, you could do this in residential too, why not, is you basically put in a letter, I want to buy your property, this is how much I'm paying for it, this is when I'm going to close it, this is the conditions, anything else you want to include in a potential offer, you fire it back and forth, hopefully you agree on the substance of a contract, and then typically the lawyers would write that contract.
Correct.
And I always have the lawyers and accountants involved. In fact, I'm so litigious, I would even make sure that my lawyers and my accountants have lawyers and accountants.
Good advice.
Backup offers. This is, it's Comedy Corners coming up.
Okay.
A broker asks, my agent wants to write a backup offer on the property. What's the lowest price they'll take for the house, Patty? After you stopped laughing, how did you respond considering you represent the seller?
Well, the way they should respond to that statement, regardless of what hat the individual wears, whether they are a broker, whether they're an agent, if you're a listing agent and you are faced with this question, you just put it back at the buyer and say, my client would be interested in reviewing any contract or agreement of purchase and sale that your client would like to prepare. I don't negotiate on my client's behalf and without their consent and permission, and I am definitely not going to be working against my seller client and start throwing numbers out there. So the agent or whomever is bringing this offer and wanting to do a pre-negotiation with the other agent, very bad idea. Write your contract and let the seller decide whether or not they are satisfied with the contract, because there's more to a contract agreement than just price. There's also the terms and conditions, perhaps some of the chattels. So to just make talking about the dollar amount the point of conversation or discussion, you're doing your seller a disservice. So it's such a dumb question.
Especially coming from a broker. And, in the industry, everyone looks at, the broker, the all-important brokers. Brokers taking a test, he's paid his $3,500 or she.
Yep.
They become a broker. It doesn't mean they have any knowledge or any experience or any common sense or intelligence in this particular case, because that's just such a stupid question. If you were a listing agent and you answered that question, said, Patty, they'll probably take $150,000 off. Tell you what, we've had 4 or 5 offers. Why don't I send those over to you in your email and you can take a look at what we've accepted in the past, and maybe you could come up with something even crappier than that. We represent the seller. Unless the seller instructs us to tell a purchaser's agent, or in this case, his mommy, we can't convey that information.
Absolutely. And at no point should any details of any contract, even previous contracts, be disclosed or released to a buyer or buyer's agent.
And that's why these elevating clauses, too, are illegal.
Correct.
Jumping on another subject real quick. This was the thing in Ontario they're doing. They're saying, whatever the last offer is or whatever the highest offer is, we'll offer 10% more, $10,000 more. That was fought in court, and people won big dollars because that was illegal to have an escalating clause, because you're basically disclosing other offers to a purchaser, which wasn't fair.
Correct.
Closing her down. You mentioned light fixtures in a bathroom, a house we looked at recently. It was about a 25-year-old house, and I said, the light fixtures are all LED lights. They're modern lights. So what they did is they put, what's the real estate term? Lipstick on a pig?
Yes, lipstick on a pig.
So some of the things that you can do to improve your property, 3 of them are clean, declutter, paint, destinkify. So there's more. Destinkify, I forgot about that one.
Okay.
And replace the light fixtures with more modern ones. And I would even go as far as painting the kitchen cabinets and replacing the knobs. All cheap things to do. All give you a good return.
Well, the knobs in the kitchen are not cheap, I will say. That can be a little costly.
Put pull strings on them.
Pull strings. But if it dates the basic presentation or representation of the room, it can be an easy fix in the sense that you don't need to hire a contractor. But know that they can be a little costly. So if you're not looking to spend a lot of money, you shouldn't spend. Here's the rule of thumb. If you spend a nickel, you should be getting back a dime, not the other way around. So make sure paint, 100% return. Light fixtures, there's so many hardware stores around. Amazon, I've seen, where you can pick up affordable light fixtures. In this property that you and I were talking about, Michael, they updated the light fixtures, which really gave this particular property, it just felt a little bit more modern than it actually was. And it was because of little things like that. They painted, they updated light fixtures. Obviously, they had cleaned and decluttered. You do not want strong scents and smells. So be mindful of, whether you're cooking a dinner or whether you're lighting strong smelling candles or the essence sticks that they burn. You don't want to get into any of that. Neutral, fresh, do a load of laundry, bake a little tray of Pillsbury cookies or something. Make the house feel homey if you're able to, if you're living in it, because vacant homes, no one's going to be in there doing that. But those are the things that you should be doing.
Kind of creepy. You walk into a vacant house and there's a pie in the oven.
I never.
Or you know what's worse than that? And then we'll close it down. Have you ever shown a house and you approach the house and you can hear music coming from it?
Yes.
That's creepy.
Is it vacant?
It's just a showing. It's not vacant. It's supposed to be vacant for the showing, but when you show up, there's music, and it's at the level in which people typically listen to music when they're at home.
Yes, because there are those who feel as part of their preparation to stage the home, they're going to have the fireplace channel on, and they're going to have music playing, and they're going to have all these nice scentsy smells going, and it's overstimulating and can be overwhelming. So less is best if that's what you're thinking of doing, is pick one of those items if you must do any of them, but don't over inundate the buyer with all of this.
And don't put a frozen pie in the oven.
Yes.
Learn that the hard way, because it doesn't have the same smell as a fresh apple pie.
Yeah, just by getting a frozen apple pie and sticking it in, it just doesn't give off the same aromas and smells as a freshly baked. So you'd be better off to go with chocolate chip cookies or something like that. I've sold many homes at open houses by making chocolate chip cookies, and the smells are just absolutely divine, even for the 2-hour open house. Thanks again for listening to another episode of the Michael and Patty Show, otherwise known as MAPS, PEI's podcast that helps guide and navigate you through the buying and selling in a little bit of Prince Edward Island. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we hope everyone has a safe and happy holiday.
In fact, we weren't going to mention the holidays because it's going to date the episode. Now you've messed it all up.
You already dated it at the beginning.
Everybody have a great day. Thanks for correcting me on my many mistakes, Patty. And we'll see you hopefully in the next episode.
Hopefully. Have a great day.